Welcome. I am where else but at the Rajpath in the heart of New Delhi, where the world's largest democracy is preparing to strike a pose like none other. It is her grandest gesture, known to most as India's Republic Day Parade. It is but natural that when an elephant desires the earth with its might will shudder, and that's what's happening out here as we speak. Who amongst us hasn't cheered them marching? But give it a thought. This is just a culmination of what began months ago, in some cases even years ago. This is the story of what you don't see when you see the Republic Day Parade. It is 2 a.m. on a cold January morning in the national capital. It could have been a colder one, and it still wouldn't have been a hurdle for Sepoy N.R. Lotha in doing what he dutifully does for his buddy, 23-year-old Lieutenant Aditya Bisht, 6 days a week. He, after all, knows that for this young officer hailing from Almora in Uttarakhand and commissioned as recently as June 2015, this is an opportunity which comes but rarely in one's career. But it is hardly about Bisht alone. His regiment, the Assam Regiment, based out of Shillong's Happy Valley, has awaited this opportunity for 4 long years.
सभी ठीक है? सबने अपना हथियार चेक किया? आज का परेड के लिए तैयार है?
Tucked away inside the national capital's cantonment is this temporary camp, a self-sufficient settlement which comes to life at odd hours, of course, in the run-up to the Republic Day Parade. Nearly 2,000 men from a vast array of Indian Army regiments travel from afar and create an ecosystem which not only acts as home but also a full-fledged workstation starting December every year. In a month and a half since their arrival, with the Army Day Parade on January 15 behind them, time has come to set sights on a bigger, grander goal, the jewel in the crown, India's Republic Day Parade. Organising the Grand Parade on January 26th was a task made easier by an interesting historical lineup which saw the army get its first Indian Commander-in-Chief in the form of General and later Field Marshal Kodandara Madappa Karyappa on the 15th of January 1949, a full year before India became a republic. As a result of this, year after year, by the time the 26th day of January arrives, the army, the largest and the most visible component of the parade, is ready to deliver. Meanwhile, 9 kilometers from the cantonment inside the highly secured walls of the South Block lies the headquarters of the Ministry of Defence. Here, work began more than 9 months ago, almost immediately after the completion of last year's parade. Designated as the overall in charge of organising the show is the Ministry's Ceremonial Division. Precision in planning mandates this division, headed by a Deputy Secretary, to rub shoulders with as many as 70 organisations which include ministries, state governments, security agencies, even schools, municipalities and electricity distribution firms. As a rule, every participating ministry or contingent foots its own bill, making the parade a contributory effort in more ways than one. Almost simultaneously, the Army headquarters, in particular the Adjutant General, a 3-star officer who supervises the Army's administration, tasks this unit, the Delhi area, with the execution of the parade. When those orders arrive, life takes a different direction for this man, Colonel Kulveer Singh, in charge of Delhi area's administration. He is a third-generation army officer who himself was a member of a marching contingent in the 1991 parade.
That is what is the marching, location where we are supposed to be.
His job almost brings him to the point of being obsessed with the preparations, so much so there hardly is a time in the year he isn't dealing with the show in one form or the other.
This is generally spread over a full complete year as to the preparation, planning, and all these starts once we hit somewhere March, April, these things will start forming some kind of a shape, because these orders, instructions which we comply on will have to be passed to the individual who is supposed to be part of this. So in the month of April or so, we generally identify the contingents which are likely to participate with us, and we inform the requisite units which are there. So their planning preparation commences from the April onwards when we task them. They call the boys around 2 to 3 months early, somewhere in the month of July, August. They start closing in. They undergo a good about 3 to 4 months of training there at the respective centers. Once they prepare themselves, then thereafter they come to us in the Delhi somewhere in the first week of December. Now we have a structured plan for them, good about 600 plus hours of rigorous training practice is given to them. The issues which come to me is that everybody is an individual which has practiced. Now to get them together, to get them into a particular, I would say, a form of a parade is what my task is. It is finally, I would say, it is 31st January is our Bada Khana, where we call all of them and then we have a small little function. That would be the last event of mine. Till that time I will be busy. And after that, once they start going back in the first week of February to their regimental centers and they have reported, and when the report comes from all that whatever has come here has safely gone back, that is the day I generally relax.
With slightly over a week to go before the parade, it is time to transit and to amalgamate. This body of troops hitherto on its own begins to find newer faces, newer formations. By 3 a.m., the contingents from the Air Force, Navy, Central Police Forces, the Delhi Police, young volunteers of the NCC and state floats, among others, join those from the army at the Rajpath for the first practice.
कंटीजेंट कृपया ध्यान से सुने, अपना कैप, ग्लव, आई कार्ड और मैगजीन अपने हाथ में रखें.
But can you simply walk into the arena and do your gig? The answer is no. Every shortlisted individual who has been screened even before he or she reaches the capital must pass through at the very least 4 checkpoints where the army and the police scrutinize everything all over again, including caps, gloves, ID cards, and of course the weapon, which under no circumstance can carry a live cartridge.
There is something known as a zero error syndrome. We do not, it is the same yardstick whether we take it for the local civil population or for the army man. Now all the more reason that the army man who's come in, he's got to get his weapon neutralized. The weapon neutralization is a drill which goes to years back. Now the moment you come onto the RDP, there are number of other agencies which get involved in security, which is the army, the police, that is the Delhi police. You also have the PM security which gets involved because the PM and other dignitaries are involved. So there is a lot more coordination in an area which is at a much grander scale as compared to ADP. So vis-a-vis the ADP, the security of the RDP becomes slightly more challenging.
While troops in their buses will ply between their home base inside the cantonment and Rajpath every time there's a practice, the team at the integrated mech camp, also inside the cantonment, simply cannot. In possession of 120 vehicles which have been pulled in from all parts of the country since September last year for the parade, the camp houses tanks, armoured personnel carriers, missile regiments, radars and jeeps. Equipment too heavy, too precious and too big, frankly, to lug around. The only way out is to resettle once and for all. Lieutenant Colonel Akshay Baloria, the officer in charge, has a plan in place, but it is going to be a messy affair and it better be done when only a few are watching.
तो जिस ऑर्डर ऑफ मार्च में आपकी ब्रीफिंग की गई है उस ऑर्डर ऑफ मार्च के हिसाब से आपने चलना है।
After briefing his men thoroughly at a speed not exceeding 10 kilometers per hour and with a uniform separation of 50 meters between two vehicles, the almost 3-kilometer long convoy of 76 vehicles with 140 personnel on board makes its way out. The Delhi Traffic Police, with whom the army has tied up, is out in full numbers. So significant are the elements of this convoy that one incident or mistake will have ramifications beyond the capital. Planning, it seems, has paid off as the lethal platforms safely roll into what will be their home, at least for now. Meanwhile, the troops have made it into Vijay Chowk. Once in, they are greeted by chilly winds to which they respond by practicing as much to perfect themselves as to keep warm. By daybreak, their respective contingent heads move to this arena where Colonel Kulbir gives them their first lessons. It is 8 a.m. and Delhi's Vijay Chowk, an area otherwise frequented by all and sundry, is now a sealed zone where nothing can just move. The army is tutoring each contingent about their position in the main parade. The operation is to stitch up these disjointed islands of excellence into one, and this is the first step for that. In a bid to reduce the duration of the parade from 120 minutes to 90, the Defence Ministry has had to say no to many participants, which include armed forces like CISF, ITBP and SSB, as well as several schools. Even the army has had to reduce its stamp by sending back trained contingents. They say the parades of the future will be even shorter. From here on, it is mathematics which takes over. Almost everything is about numbers. The time of starting, duration of march to the number of beats per minute, among others. At precisely 10 a.m, the President will arrive at the dais in a buggy drawn by Shetland ponies. Once there, he will take the salute from his guards, with which will begin the national anthem, accompanied by the unfurling of the flag and firing of the 21-gun salute, all at once and within 52 seconds. Such is the extent of detailing that the planning is done not in terms of minutes, but seconds. At the 5 checkpoints established along the Rajpath, those marching get their feedback. Too fast or too slow, all done to ensure that the main dignitaries see a uniform march for the duration of 1 minute 13 seconds, that every contingent remains before their eyes. Moments before the practice rolls, loose ends being tied up. Reserve the best for the last is what they say. Towards that, the army has fielded this 129-member volunteer team from its celebrated Jabalpur-based Signal Training Corps for this year's parade. It is a team with the distinction of holding 20 mind-numbing world records, one of which includes a kilometer-long ride for 56 men on one bike. Yes, you heard that right.
From October we started our modification and all. That time we decided that we'll do these events. First we did the modification at Jabalpur only. You can walk at your own speed. This is a bike, you cannot do whatever you want to do. You have some restrictions also.
From this moment onwards, for the next 90 minutes of the practice, through radio, mobile and army communications set up specially for the occasion by the Signal Corps, Colonel Kulbir's team will attempt to monitor the actions of each contingent, and in it, each among the 147 individuals. With the uniform laid down speed of 120 beats per second for all the bands, corresponding marching can be controlled. What, however, is the solution for someone who has to drive at the speed of 5 kilometers an hour, a vehicle which is fully covered, allowing very little visibility to the driver? For those driving the tractors on which are mounted various Ws which have to get selected following an intense peer review, there is literally a window of hope. Through this square, the driver has to maintain visual contact of his guide, a Jawan, who marches in sync with the rest for the entire length of the parade. As long as he sees him, he's doing just fine. By the time the practice nears completion, Colonel Kulveer has readied a thick set of papers with detailed notings on the nuances of every contingent. The debriefing is akin to a medical test, from hands not swinging enough to knees not being lifted high. From medals falling off the uniform to speed not being maintained, even those at the checkpoint, men from the colonel's own team are not spared. Even though there will be 4 more practice parades at the Rajpath, on the very first day, the message is clear: shape up or ship out. Following the first practice, reserves in every contingent will be trimmed. Only the best among the best will be retained. Back in the camp, there will be many broken hearts and moist eyes. Another fascinating aspect to the effort is something very few in the national capital even realize. Nestled firmly behind an opaque, impregnable shield, the army inside the India Gate complex year on year creates a camp of the type seen in jungles or border regions. Here, 450 men and their officers live, eat and sleep for days on end to check, recheck and ready the stars for the parade. Just to tell you how well the army treats these beasts, every vehicle gets about 10 checks and as many coats of paint before being rolled out. If things go wrong, the same camp will have to come up with the remedy, deployed at vantage points along the Rajpath in the form of recovery vans like these.
To ensure this particular equipment, it's a war equipment which fights during a wartime, performs to its 100% mission reliability. It's the task of this entire camp and each one of us standing here today in front of you to ensure that it works the way it is supposed to. We start having this camp say by October first week, where the various state-of-art equipment from all over the country start coming to us in terms of equipment, the crew behind them and the technicians which are there to maintain, prepare the equipment for the parade. It takes almost 3 months of preparation from say October first week till 26th of Jan, and it's a cycle of almost 9 various stages under which each equipment undergoes before it comes to the final stage. It's almost 21 days preparation time which is put on each equipment.
Novelty as a part of the parade touched a new high with the participation of the 136-member French Army contingent, a first for India. However, since everything boils down to numbers, the Indians, much to their discomfort, discovered that the French march in a less animated fashion and at a much slower rate of 106 beats per minute as against the 120 for all other participants. Last heard, the French were made to put in extra sessions. Finally, it is time to take off into the world where lies the most awaited display of the parade. Based Western Air Command, and in it, these men, Air 1, Air Commodore S.P. Singh and his staff coordinate with multiple commands to put in place 9 formations consisting a total of 41 aircraft to leave the audience in awe.
This starts almost about 4 to 5 months ahead of the event, and there are officers from various branches come together, and especially like whether you talk about the Met officer and all are a part of the team and all. Their Met predictions. We take stock of the aircraft state, aircraft's availability. We also have today the best of the aircraft which are like C-130, which has the capability to tell the weather from the air, from the ground we monitor, and then he gives a kind of clearance. Taking all this into account, then we decide whether only the helicopters go through, or only the fighter will go through, or certain types of fighter will go through, or all will go through. So it's a clear-cut defined cutoffs depending on the cloud base, visibility and all the crap.
While the complex around Rajpath gets a fresh coat, the air, the ground and the underground slips into an iron fist where multiple agencies, known and unknown, join ranks to defeat those with nefarious intent. As we approach the date, as many as 35,000 personnel form a human shield around the location, and in the days prior, men in plain clothes are stationed in vicinity of trouble spots to observe and keep a tab.
We hold meeting with all security agencies. We do thorough checking of all installations. We do thorough checking of hotels, guest houses, restaurants and all hideouts. And then we deploy on the ground also. We increase our purpose on 25th January. We seal whole buildings. All buildings are vacated and Delhi police is deployed in that. It takes around 3 to 4 months. It takes 3 to 4 months. We hold meetings with all stakeholders, and which whole area is checked. We have got enough manpower for this purpose, and we get extra manpower from Ministry of Home Affairs also.
In every day of practice, these men march close to 12 kilometers. On the D-Day or on the R-Day, as some would call it, they will walk close to 9 kilometers from Rajpath to the Red Fort. There is intense competition to emerge as the best. All along the route of the march, the army has placed its judges who will take a call on the contingents based on as many as 200 parameters. The army in fact maintains what it calls a pressy, a book which in black and white tells you the do's and don'ts of a successful parade. By one estimate, more than 1 lakh man-hours go into planning and execution of this spectacle. Those involved told us it was all about muscle memory, an act of repeating something so often and so intensely that one's body carries on regardless. While it is true that the effort does take a lot from an individual, what cannot be denied is that irrespective of the age or stage of one's career, it leaves him enriched as well.
Let me tell you something. I am from India and I joined at 16 years and 8 months, right? This is way back in 1976. And I've seen these parades on the ground. I was posted there in Delhi many times. I've seen this parade on the TV. And whenever I used to see the general standing there on the vehicle and going past and saluting the president, एक ख्वाहिश थी मन में कि काश मैं कभी उस पे हो सकता, उस गाड़ी पे हो सकता. And I'm very, very thrilled, happy, delighted. I don't know what words to say. To be part of this parade, you don't understand it. It's a momentous occasion for all of us. Just to stand here, I mean, even if I just standing here and not taking part in the parade itself is a momentous occasion. And in my own course, we passed out about 450 cadets, gentlemen cadets. I think I am the only one who's going to be part of the parade.
It is not about the thing that I'm young, so I cannot lead them. It's about how they look up to me. That whatever my actions, whatever I'm doing, are they with me in that or not? If I'm telling them to do something, but I'm not following it myself, so in that way they'll not follow me. But I have to do it, and that is how I motivate them. As such, there is no biggest worry because we have practiced enough for everything. We are mentally as well as physically prepared to go through everything. I would remember being with my men and commanding them on Rajpath, and it is a matter of honor for me to represent my regiment. This goes in the memory lane.
Since last year parade experience, I'll tell you, the parade did start on a very, I would say, 3 minutes late as what it was supposed to start. Thereafter, the cascading effect started, and we were somewhere when the half the parade was there, we were somewhere around 26 to 28 minutes, if I recollect correctly. We had already overshot. But since the time for the parade was given was less, I was told after the half the parade that the parade has to finish in time. I think so. That was one order which I received when I cannot physically go on ground, but I have to still perform and I have to get it completed. Just because my previous practices, I was on ground and I can see as to where all I can pull up, and finally we were able to finish the entire parade just 20 seconds above. And that entire journey of mine of that 26 minutes getting to 20 seconds is what I would remember always.
The British left India independent on the 15th of August 1947. That day meant a lot to them. After all, just 2 years ago on that very day, they had secured the Japanese surrender, thereby emerging victorious in the Second World War. Ever wondered why we celebrate the 26th day of January and not the 25th or the 27th for that matter? Historian Ramchandra Guha tells us that it all boiled down to a resolution adopted in the Indian National Congress's session at Lahore. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi wanted Indians to participate in large numbers in a variety of activities and demonstrate in support of Purna Swaraj. It had to be a Sunday after all, and that Sunday was chosen to be, and it happened to be in fact, the 26th of January. History has this and much more to offer us all. These rare images from the first parade capture the mood and simplicity of a time long gone. A time when barricades were fewer and innocence was found in abundance. It was also a time when, in the words of Kapila Vatsyayan, noted scholar and historian who was a part of that parade, you could expect a flying visit by the Prime Minister to check on the preparations even at 3 in the morning.
Let me tell you that there were not more than 2 or 3 floats, but there were no professionals involved in the making of the floats. It was hard work getting all this together, but it was fun and frolic. The Prime Minister of India coming to see how the float is being made at 3 a.m. or something like that. I think that's a big anecdote if you need to have an anecdote.
While the history concerning the Republic Day is known, what isn't is just why India chose the parade to express herself and how much has it really contributed in nation building.
Remember that whatever the Prime Minister or Srimati Indira Gandhi thought of the folk dancers, these were all tribal people. These were people coming from different parts, and to make the Delhi audience and the Delhi elite, so to say, aware of the richness of the fabric of this tribal India, I think is a plus point. Whether today the way that it has taken place and there is professionalism that has walked into it is a different matter, but changes would take place. But at that time, remember that this was the first Republic Day. And remember that this is the first time that you had groups from different parts of India staying together in Talkatora, and this is the first time that they were walking on Rajpath as equals.
Having commanded 3 parades from 1985 to 87 as the General Officer commanding Delhi area, Major General J.S. Jamwal belongs to an era when the parades were hardly as smooth as they appear today.
There was no time limit at all. It should be that much. When I joined there, I found that it is too long. So I said it should be done exactly for 1 hour. For that, I got a computer and sent the orders कि इस कंप्यूटर के मुताबिक इस टाइम पे ये march past हो गई.
Oddly, none among them watched the parade any longer. Is it out of over-familiarity, or is it a sign that the parade has outlived its utility and that doing more of the same can hardly make a difference? It would be a travesty if I were to tell you that all that happens in the Republic Day parade is all what you see along the Rajpath or the Kingsway, as the British would call it. In fact, there's a lot happening on the sidelines as well, as the innumerable arms prepare to converge into one mass. The Rajpath has new visitors. Well, almost new, given that these warriors are returning to the parade after 26 long years. They guard, they lead, they detect, they even assault. And now these four-legged warriors are getting the recognition they deserve. With 36 of their trainers, as many Army canines are practicing to put up a good show come January 26th. This contingent, consisting of 24 Labradors and 12 German Shepherds, has made its way from the Meerut-based Remount and Veterinary Corps. There are several aspects which make this performance unique. Among them is the fact that unlike other contingents, here the men are not selected for their marching prowess but for their command over the dogs.
We have been practicing from last 4 months and we practice 3 times in a day.
This pack has been carefully chosen for its obedience and past record. Yes, the Army says it maintains a profile of every single dog, and believe it or not, their transfers are matters decided by none less than the authorities at the Army headquarters in South Block.
In case by any chance, by any stimulus they are making a mistake, our handlers, our Army dog trainers, they are trained in their profession so well that they can overcome that training. The dogs these days in mountain warfare, in CI ops, they are like the basic requirement of an infantry unit, because whenever they are going in operation, the ADT and its dog is the first one to enter the operational area, to first one to search the area, to guide the infantry where is the location of the hideout, where is the location of the terrorist, or it can track the terrorist. It can track any explosive which has been planted or IEDs which has been planted.
The Army, while it wants the dogs to obey their trainers, knows it is in no position to guarantee the dog one trainer all through. The dogs thus have a new boss with every posting.
अगर आप उस जानवर के साथ भी दोस्ताना व्यवहार रखेंगे तो आपसे कदम से कदम मिला के हमेशा हर जगह चलने के लिए तैयार है.
However, today is a day of anticipation before the eventual celebration. Their booming is synonymous with ceremony. History has spoken about it as well. All we now have to do is locate it. At exactly 10 AM, when the first citizen of India takes the salute, the national flag too gets accorded the highest military honor with the firing of the 21-gun salute, or as they call it, 21 Topo ki Salami. But who among us has seen it happen? Hardly anyone. So we went about searching and landed up in an obscure corner about 300 meters off the Rajpath. Much to our amusement, we discovered that the firing, so to say, never actually takes place. 7 obsolete British-made 25-pounders, as they're called, are made to line up, and along with his men, Lieutenant Colonel Aditya Devrani, officer in charge, 228 Field Regiment, does what it takes to execute this ceremonial task.
Stand by! What?
This is the only gun in the whole country which participates in all ceremonial functions.
You were explaining it to me that the function of the gun, your role per se will be about 52 seconds. Within 52 seconds you have to do it. Can you explain that whole coordination that you were telling me about?
Okay, brother, I'll tell you. Okay. Possibly that is the reason for RDP. You are aware that the Republic Day parade is on 26th, but we start firing for this Republic Day parade. Since last 10 days we are firing for it. There are so many practices which are involved because the precision is required. You see, there are a total of 4 simultaneous actions during RDP Republic Day parade, which are to go together hand in hand. The action number 1, when the president of our country, he goes and occupies the dais, the president bodyguards, commanding officer gives him the salute with the help of a sword. Right. So as soon as this action is done, very close to the main dais, along with that the national anthem also starts. As you are aware that the total length of national anthem is 52 seconds. Right. So along with this national anthem, when the first note is played, the first shot of this 21-gun salute should be fired. Okay. And along with the last note of national anthem, the last note should be, the last round, that is 21st round, should be fired. Out here, there is no shell. We are using only the cartridge with some propellant inside. Right. So it is just to make the sound. And with the help of this 21-gun salute, this is considered as the highest military honor which can be accorded to somebody. Okay. So whenever I see the president bodyguards, CEO saluting the president, that is the time I signal with the help of my radio communication and with the help of this particular flag also. I signal the gun end to start off with the fire.
The only reason to carry on with these maintenance-heavy guns made in 1941, we found out, is because of their unmatched prowess in generating noise upon firing. The Army says there is no modern artillery gun, at least available in India, which is in a position to keep these old mouths shut. And thus the show carries on. The military, which forms the backbone of this parade, designates Delhi as a peace station, indicating comfortable, cozier postings for its staff, which, as we all saw, is actually all but that. Nevertheless, in the capital, issues change, different issues take center stage. What doesn't change or stop is this massive yet sturdy cycle which churns and churns to come up with a spectacular Republic Day parade, which, as we now know, is second to none. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and Jai Hind.